Hey everyone, you're listening to the DMZ America podcast for Wednesday, November 8th, 2023, the day after Election Day. Coming to you from the left, I am political cartoonist Ted Rall.
And coming to you from the right, I'm political cartoonist Scott Stantis, and we have a special guest today. His name is Marshall Ramsey. He's the editorial cartoonist for Mississippi Today. He does a radio show, a television show, I think 3 stand-up routines a week, and a stage show. Marshall Ramsey, A Day in the Life. It'll make you laugh, it'll make you cry, it'll make you feel like a child again. Ladies and gentlemen, Marshall Ramsey.
Hey, Marshall. Thank you for joining us.
I'd like to thank the Academy.
Well, you already have your Emmy there behind you.
I know, isn't that great? Actually, my dog won it technically, so it's hers. It's not mine.
Well,
is she very?
Do you pay your dog, or is this free labor like most cartooning?
It's free. Oh, completely.
For the exposure.
You did it for the exposure. Like I once told a guy, my children can't eat exposure. So
yes, or one dies of exposure. People.
Yeah.
I wish I could say I made that up, but I'm just stealing that. Like I steal most of my stuff. So yes. Guys, let's get into it. Obviously, yesterday was an off-year election. Not a lot of races, not a lot of contested races here in New York. I went to vote and it was all Democrat. You can choose any kind of Democrat you want as long as it's the Democratic nominee. There was no alternative whatsoever. I'm like, are we in Iraq under Saddam? Or what kind of election is this? But there were some notable races. I personally, as an Ohioan, was looking at the abortion and cannabis votes, both of which passed by landslide. I think it's fair to say 56% and 57% respectively on Ohio issue 1 and issue 2. Strong libertarian impulse there. Obviously, Ohio becomes the latest state to enshrine abortion rights into its state constitution following the overturning of Roe v. Wade. We also have a variety of Democrats sweeping judgeships. Glenn Youngkin was handed a rebuke in Virginia, where he basically tried a hostile takeover of the state house, totally failed. I guess the bright spot for Republicans was the Mississippi governor's race, which was expected to be a little closer than it was, but it was still pretty close. Brandon Presley, distant cousin of the king of rock and roll, he came in pretty close, but there was a third party independent candidate who got like 1.5%, and that may have played a role there. I think the incumbent.
I don't think so. You do the math. Do the math. It doesn't move because I think.
Well, no, it doesn't. I mean, the math doesn't add up. But I tell you what, there was a couple of things about it. Number one, she had withdrawn from the race, but she had done it so late in the race that she was still on the ballot, so she wasn't even in the race at that point. And then on two, I think there was, and I'd heard from a lot of Republicans who were not fans of the current governor, who, like I said, he won. But we're not fans of him. So I think it was like a protest vote in a lot of them, because they just couldn't in their stomach and in their heart and their soul vote for a Democrat. So they voted for her on that. So I think that drove a little bit. I had said, Scott asked me about that. Who do I thought would win? And I'm terrible at picking elections. I mean, I've lived here 27 years and, if you had taken both the candidates and flipped them and you put an R behind Brandon Presley's name, he probably would have gotten 60%. It's just the power of the R, on that. But I figured that Tate would probably win about 51%, and he ended up winning about 51.7 is the last time I saw, somewhere in that range. And
that's right.
But all the other statewides won with about 60%. So now, it was, yeah.
Why was Tate Reeves sort of in play in the first place? Why do people dislike him?
Okay. He's been around. He's a known quantity. He's been around a long time. He was the first statewide elected official. He's actually younger than me. So he's 49 now. And he ran for treasurer a few years ago. He tutored under Haley Barbour's wing. And the thing about Haley Barbour's superpower is making relationships. Haley can schmooze you before he cuts your throat, right? As a politician and a tactician. Haley's probably one of those. He plays chess when most people plays checkers. Tate never quite got the relationship.
Checkers.
No, what he just honestly, he just doesn't have a terribly great personality type thing on that. And he also, but he's very good at fundraising and he's very good at power. So he can be vindictive. And so there was just a lot of people that did not like dealing with him on that. And you know, I mean, it's, Chris Britt once told me you're only as good as your governor. And I have been blessed with 5 of the best governors in the time that I've been here to draw. And Tate's
not best. Explain best.
Huh? Best
Explain,
as in bad.
No, as in, yeah. I mean, no, as in, I mean, seriously.
Best to draw, not best to govern.
When you have one walk past your office every day with a pistol on their hip, walking their dog, yeah, that's pretty damn good stuff to draw about, you know? So, I mean, you don't really have to work.
Well, the other thing that, I mean, Marshall's being very kind and very politic in his very special and nice way because Marshall's a nice guy. But Tate Reeves,
thank you, Scott. I'd hug you if I could.
That's not a very nice thing to say.
Yeah.
Sorry, but Tate Reeves, if you look at him, looks exactly like he actually had plastic surgery to purposefully look like Peter Griffin from The Family Guy. He looks exactly like him. And he's a shallow, vindictive, horrible little man. And this is Mississippi's loss. Mississippi is is it hemorrhaging population, Marshall?
Yeah, we're losing population. We've got a lot of problems with brain drain. We have a lot of our students are graduating from college and then heading out to, like my own son did. My oldest son left, got a job out of state.
Why is it due to high unemployment or what?
No, I think there's just a combination of, and it's funny because a lot of people leave and then they come back, you know, later on in life, you know, because mama's here kind of thing. Family is a big draw in Mississippi, obviously, but no, they're just obviously when you have Nashville and Huntsville and Atlanta and Dallas, all within a few hours of where you live. And that's where obviously a lot of the high paying jobs are. And there's a lot of manufacturing jobs that have come in here, but there's still a real struggle sometimes to get the kind of jobs that maybe a college graduate would want to be able to get.
So what do we take away from, I mean, Mississippi, and Marshall we kind of walked over that, but it's important to note that the governor got just a little over 50% of the vote. Rest of the Republicans down ballot got 60% or more. Yeah. Does this vote, is that a testament to him or the weakness of the growing strength of a Democratic Party, or just that he was a weak candidate running against a guy whose last name was Presley?
Number one, Brandon Presley ran as good a campaign as he possibly could have run. Democratic Party, you know, obviously, I'm trying to think when it really, Haley Barbour really drove a lot of it. The Republican Party started about the time really to grow about the time I came here in 96. Haley took it to another level because he could raise money and he could primary people, and because the governor in Mississippi is a very weak governor. Next to Texas, it's probably the second weakest in the country. But where your power is being, if you can raise money and if you put people on boards, you know, because you're in charge, you're of things like Medicaid and things like that. So you've got that power also. But over time, a lot of the white Democrats, you know, switch parties, you know, and that happened. Yeah. And so it's like most places in the South, that started happening as well. And people always get on to me like, why don't you draw more cartoons about Democrats? It's like, well, they don't have enough power to make coffee in Mississippi, you know, and especially in the legislature. So it's like, you know, you can only kick a down dog so many times. But the Republican, we strongly are one party state right now. And, you know, so, but that said, within the Republican Party, you have factions. So you have a lieutenant governor and a speaker who may necessarily did not get along with the governor. So that's where you get your intrigue.
So, I mean, yeah, the same thing happened here in Alabama, and the same thing is true. I mean, it's so funny being nailed as, you aren't much of a Republican. I said, I've been a Republican a hell of a lot longer than you have. Yeah. I've said that to lieutenant governors and governors here. The Democratic Party here in the state of Alabama, I'm not sure if Ted's aware of this, and I think the same is true or close to true in Mississippi. There is one white Democrat in both houses of our legislature here in Alabama. It's obviously become a very racially divisive
Take good care of
political construct.
Yeah.
Or her.
Yeah.
I don't see how you
looking at the picture. That's my caricature of the governor.
Gotcha. Oh yeah. That makes him look better than he does. He's a doofus. I mean, come on. Okay, I'll just throw it
All
out there
right.
and leave it
You're
there.
not telling me, I mean, you know, like I live with the guy literally, and he's in my state. So, but no, I mean, he does not like obviously cartoons being drawn about him. So, and that makes my job more fun.
So a Republican, so could a Democrat win in Mississippi? I know one could not win statewide office here.
20
in
years
Alabama.
ago, there was a Democratic.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had Ronnie Musgrove. Ronnie Musgrove was the last one. So,
I mean, it's not that
Yeah.
long ago. I mean, you know, what was different about him?
at that point that Northeast Mississippi has changed over from being a primarily Democratic stronghold area to being a Trump country. And that's near Tupelo, Mississippi. There's a lot of manufacturing, a lot of furniture manufacturing, but that all switched over. And so, and also too, I mean, the problem is, and I think you saw it last night in Hinds County, which is the county where Jackson is, where the state capital is. There was a huge issue because of a large African-American turnout. There was not enough ballots. And so there ended up being a judge's order to lengthen the time that people could vote. There was the Republicans put a stay on that, trying to fight it. I mean, it was just crazy, but the election commissioner screwed up. And there was obviously problems on a local level on that. And right now is that the blocking and tackling right now, the Democratic Party is not working well. The Republicans, to their credit, have been incredibly organized from the get-go. I mean, just from the time when I was here, they had a plan, they had a strategy, and you can, whatever you want to say about it. I mean, there can be some voter suppression thrown in there, but at the end of the day, they know what they're doing and they do it. And the Democrats sometimes could screw up a one-car funeral. And so you had a lot of that last night. They weren't doing the little things right there. Brandon Presley kind of has been kind of a force of his own compared to the other candidates. He visited every single county, 82 counties in this thing. He had a lot of energy. He was very charismatic. He is incredible on the stump, as opposed to the governor. The governor's not a good public speaker. And so, the fact that it was as close as it was a lot of the testament to Brandon Presley's own energy and his effort. And frankly, he's conservative. I mean, he's conservative on abortion. He's got a little bit of a populist flair when it comes to, because he was on the Public Service Commission. So he stood up to a giant, kind of a boondoggle power plant in Mississippi and save ratepayers a bunch of money. So he had a good story too. And he talked about policy. So, I mean, he was a good candidate. It's just, he couldn't overcome the way the thing's set up on that. And like I said, it was pretty close, but it wasn't, obviously close only counts in atomic bombs. So
So what about abortion? That seems to be obviously we shouldn't gloss over that brutal poll from the New York Times and Siena College over the weekend that showed Trump defeating Biden if the election were held today in 5 out of 6 key battleground states. Kamala Harris outperforms him by a point, which tells the whole story right there. But that said, abortion is a big bright spot for Democrats. Even in Virginia, even though there wasn't a ballot initiative, that was a huge issue in the state House race there. And Virginia's punished Republican state legislature candidates for supporting a pro-life stance. In recent months and since last year's, we have seen not just Virginia, but we've seen California, Michigan, Kansas, Kentucky, and now Ohio all legalize abortion in a way more strongly than it was under Roe v. Wade. I think Donald Trump has privately expressed his fear that this is going to bite him on the ass next year. Although he made this happen by appointing these Supreme Court justices, right? And he bragged about it, rightly so. He deserves to brag about it because this was his doing in large part. But other, like Nikki Haley tonight is probably going to caution Republicans against being too rabidly pro-life, although she hasn't really managed to articulate a stance. What do Republicans do about this? It seems like right now they're just burying their heads in the sand and hoping that this issue just doesn't get talked about as much as like the border or like the wars or the economy. But that's not a winning strategy, right? I mean, Democrats are going to pound away on this in their attack ads.
I have to admit, I'm shocked that Ohio put it on the Ohio Democrats put it on the ballot now instead of waiting until 2024. Because if any state that has it on the ballot, I guarantee you will be carried by a Democrat. Because that's going to be such a huge motivator. Mm-hmm. Cannabis is not a great motivator for voters. Americans are generally, I've said this a million times, libertarian in so many ways. And that's one of them. It's like, if you want to smoke weed, don't do it while you're driving a car. I don't care. Abortion is, and the Republicans, the pro-life Republicans are the dog that caught the car. They're like going, oh shit, we got it. Okay. And they passed these draconian laws, which by the way, were written by people who are, oh gosh, what's the word? Stupid. That's the word. And so, the OBGYNs across the country, especially down here in the South where they have these bills, they don't know what to do with them. So many of them are retiring, leaving the state, leaving practice. I mentioned this on Ted's show earlier in the week that here in Shelby County, Alabama, just shut down the only birthing center in the county. That's the third biggest county in the state because the OBGYNs and the laws are so draconian, so overreaching, so overarching that they can't possibly function in that environment. If I was a Democrat and they were smart, they've shown no proclivity towards this, but hope springs eternal, I suppose. I would put it on the ballot. If I was in Denver, if I was in Colorado, if I was in Pennsylvania, if I was in Arizona, I would have it on the ballot on the general election ballot of 2024. And then I think you'd see those polls change dramatically in favor of, the Democrats could have a slobbering, mentally deranged dog. Well, they have that, don't they? If they nominate someone other than Joe Biden, or Joe Biden could still, the Democrats are just keeping they're closing their eyes, crossing their fingers and hoping that no one notices that Joe Biden is Joe Biden. And so how do you protect that? Abortion is going to be that strong of an issue in 2024, I think. Marshall, it's not going to be
Ohio
strong
last night blew me away. It really did. I was not, because Ohio is different than Mississippi, but in a lot of ways it's alike. There was a certain degree of that. And I'm thinking about Mississippi, and you talk about putting on the ballot. We can't do it here because the legislature got rid of our initiative and referendum. Basically, you can't get around the legislature and can't get things on the Constitution. But wow. That said, in 2011, we had a personhood amendment. And I thought, well, there you go. That's going to basically outlaw abortion in Mississippi. This thing's going to be overwhelming. It lost by 59%. Huge number. Women were, and because because the way it was written, it would have also taken out birth control and a few other things too. And the women just kind of said, not only no, but hell no, you're not going to do this. Now, that was in 2011. Flash forward to a few years ago, and thanks to the pandemic, I have no institutional memory anymore. But we had one on medical marijuana, and it passed overwhelmingly. But what happened was they found out that it was basically they got signatures based on the congressional districts from the previous census when we had one more congressman. So therefore it was declared by the Supreme Court that they had to throw out those signatures. Well, at that point, the legislature said, well, it's too broken. We can't fix it. And so they got rid of it altogether. So we can't, and I think part of it was because we're the home of Dobbs. We're literally where the Dobbs thing came from was here in Mississippi. Our attorney general is the one who pushed it. Poor Thomas Dobbs, who was our state health director, is the one it's named for, who he had nothing to do with it whatsoever. But now his name is tacked on it forever. But, the thing that to me that, and there's probably no chance in Hades or hell. I'm sorry, I'll cuss. Oh, fuck, I can cuss. But anyway, you get the point. The thing is, there's no chance in hell that the initiative and referendum is going to come back. And I think part of it's the fact that they're worried. They're worried about this, and they're worried about some other things too that may come up and supersede the power of the legislature.
Ted, you got to get ready for an interview. Do you want to stop now?
I should probably stop now. Yeah.
Okay, so we will reconvene at 2:15.
So, yeah, sounds good.
Okay. Did you stop recording?
Awesome. There we go.